want to tell you I'm a longtime fan. I've been following you since like Golf Digest days. I was wondering at what point in your career did you realize that you could really, really excel at this and be way more than just like a beat guy?
It's a fantastic question. I It's a really good question. I think probably my first full swing interview. Um, Actually, no, I'll go back to before that. I played golf with Chad Mum, before my first full swing interview. I was still working at Golf Digest at the time. This would have been in 2022, maybe.
Mm.
And Chad, told me basically that he saw something in me and that he thinks that, I'd be really good on the show. And when you hear that from someone who's had his level of success, it definitely means something. Um, I always felt like writing was great and I really enjoyed it, but I always felt like I just had more personality, and I felt like it was hard to have that come through at a place like Golf Digest, which is very traditional. So yeah, I would say, Chad really instilled a lot of confidence in me.
And going before that, like how did you cultivate an all-consuming passion for golf, like going way back? Did it start in your childhood?
Yeah, it did. So my dad is a huge golfer. He's played, he says 3 times a week. It's probably closer to five. And so I was very lucky. My dad would take me to play all the time, and he would take me on trips and stuff. I got to see so much of the world and so many parts of this country, and started getting good at it. Started playing competitively when I was 13 or 14, and yeah, I just loved the hang. I loved there's so many elements to this game. It's like so deep. I loved how, it was something that allowed me to relate with people of different age groups. Like I just remember playing golf with my dad's friends and genuinely enjoying it. And then I was really good at talking to like my friends' parents, which is definitely a skill that I think a lot of golfers who have, played golf from a young age, you just learn how to relate to people. There was a period there, kind of 2017, 2018, when I just started my career, where I was kind of covering all sports, and golf was still going, and I still covered it, but not in the same way. And then, when I got the assignment to start covering golf for Sports Illustrated, I just like dove all the way in. And I'm the kind of guy who when there's like success in something, I want to keep pumping it. So yeah, the last I would say 7 years have been a lot of golf.
When you were playing, I wonder, was there a point where you thought that maybe you'd be on the PGA Tour? Like, was that an early dream of yours? And was
Yeah,
it
it was, but I was a real I was so temperamental out there. I didn't have the patience to practice. I didn't have the patience to get through bad rounds. I had the physical tools, and I still hit the ball long. Like my good shots look really nice, but it was very quick that I realized, okay, I'm probably not going to be on the PGA Tour. But this career was an opportunity for me to get about as close as you possibly can to the PGA Tour without being a player. So it's been a huge thrill.
I remember there was this video of you that kind of like shows like how much passion you have for the game. Like it was that press conference with Tiger Woods. You ask the first question and then you kind of freeze afterwards because you were that nervous to be talking to him. But it kind of shows that this is like a true passion point for you. And it's not like, like some guys are just there, it's their job, but it's different for you. You think that's part of the reason for your tremendous appeal that people gravitate toward you because you wear your passion on your sleeve?
Yeah, I think so. I think this game bites you, man. I think like people, grown men love basketball and they love football, but I think when you love golf, it's a different level of enchantment. I think this game gets into your soul, and I think there's a lot of people who feel exactly like I do. And I think that Skratch and the partnership that we have with the PGA Tour, and their willingness to let me inside the ropes and shoot content inside the ropes, I'm basically just bringing along all these people with me. So I think we're given a really cool look at what I consider to be the coolest job in the world.
To this day, though, does Tiger still make you a little nervous?
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
so. With Tiger, it's something that I'll never forget. Is you can be in a room with billionaires or Super Bowl winning quarterbacks, and as soon as he walks in, necks just snap. Everyone just stares at him. He's he's a one of a kind person. His sporting success, but also everything else that's happened in his life. He's like a character straight out of a Shakespeare play, and Yeah, I think anytime. I mean, I don't know if nervous is the right word. You definitely feel it,
I did then, or
Yeah, it definitely
okay.
definitely gets you going when he's there. But I think, I think treating him like a normal person is what he really appreciates because he's had a really interesting life, and it's been in a fishbowl the whole time. And I think when you're that famous from that young of an age, um, you know, you don't have that many normal conversations. Everyone wants something from you. Everyone's freaking out. So I think, the more normal you can be around these tour pros, and obviously Tiger's the extreme in this, but the more normal you can be and just treat them like the humans they are, I think it goes a long way.
What's the happiest you've ever been on a golf course? Is it playing or is it spectating maybe?
It's a really good question again.
It could be in the last
I
10.
would say when Fitz won the US Open.
Okay.
It was because it was sort of a combination. Like I felt invested because of our background, but also I knew that like I was going to have some kick-ass content that was going to come out of it. So yeah, I think sounds a little nasty to say, but when Will's Outdoors missed that putt, I think that's probably yeah. And my wife was there, and we had just a really special evening that night, celebrating in the clubhouse at the country club, and that's a memory I'll cherish forever.
I know there's always that prop bet. Who will they hug first? Were you like the second hug then for Fitzpatrick after that win?
No, I waited in line. I think it
Yeah.
was his caddy, his mom, his brother. Um, but yeah, we were in there pretty quick.
Looking back, you think your friendship with Fitzpatrick kind of helped focus your career path? Like in an alternative universe, say you went to Texas Tech and were friends with like Patrick Mahomes, would I be interviewing you about Dan on football?
No, I mean, I think we became friends because I was already obsessed with golf. Like
Okay.
I walked up to him like the first day of school and was like, I know exactly who you are. And so I think I was sort of already too far gone at that point.
Before you landed on Dan on golf, take me through some of the dud names that didn't make the cut.
Well, that's actually funny you mentioned that. We had a name called Golf and Other Things. That
Okay.
was going to be the name of the show. And the reason was I just liked the name. It was just
Yeah.
something I always really liked. But it didn't have my name on it. And I also liked GNOT. I thought that was like a cool little moniker. But I don't know. Like I the so the show changed pretty significantly. I'll tell you this. I don't think I've told someone this before, but we shot a test episode a week before the show. That was a totally different format. It was me and two other guys in the studio, and it was almost like a pod. It was way more podcasty. It was
Okay.
like we still planned on having like highlights and stuff, but there were two guys in the studio who were gonna, and we just kind of started trading takes, and it felt like a podcast. And Chad called me right after and said, that was good, but we're losing the other two guys, and it's going to be you and just you. And so yeah, at that point, it made sense to call the show Dan on Golf because, and also like we wanted to create a sort of universe like with a YouTube channel and Instagram stuff, and it just made way more sense for like my name to be involved. And then the DOG name, the DOG sort of moniker also worked really nicely. But yeah, we were going to call it Golf and Other Things, and I'm so happy we didn't because everyone I told that name to, like you can tell when people are trying to be like, yeah, that's a cool name, and they don't really
Yeah.
mean it. I think Dan on Golf's way better.
But this is far from your first rodeo, and I noticed you kind of really hit the ground running on the first pod. I mean, the amount of territory you traversed is like tremendous. There was like topic, like 8 guests. Do you think you may have set the bar too high, or you think you can keep that up with that amount of people, that amount of like, it was a
Yeah.
lot.
Yeah, well, I mean, for sure we emptied the clip for episode one. But yeah, I think we can keep it up. I think I think we're in the process of bringing on a dedicated producer who's going to work only on that show. As of right now, it was Johnny, who I just mentioned, this guy Derek, who works for Skratch, but everyone kind of works on multiple things, and we all kind of put all those things to the side to get episode one off the ground. But hopefully, another like a proper producer to take over, a guy who's dedicated to this full time. But I'm in the process of writing episode two, and I don't think there's going to be a drop off.
You mentioned that at the beginning of the episode that it's for like the golf sickos, but do you think it's also for the casual carriers, the golf bug, bent on cultivating a new addiction? Like they just got into golf and like this is a kind of a way to kind of, it's not just recapping, it's like all encompassing everything going on in the game.
Yeah, I think it's I guess golf sickos or aspiring golf sickos, like
Sure.
people who are trying to get more into it. But no, I mean I like we when we make Full Swing, we think about people like my wife who don't play at all, and you have to sort of appeal to them just on a human side. This is definitely a show that's more geared toward sort of golf hardos. But yeah, I definitely think it's a good, we wanted to make it where, you could watch this for an hour and a half on Monday and have a pretty good idea of what's going on in the golf world. So absolutely, people who are trying to get more into it, I'd invite them to watch the show.
Let's talk partnerships. I noticed right off the bat, is Knockaround Sunglasses your personal partner, or is that a partner of the show?
Both.
Oh,
They came in to support the show, and they also support me, and so I wear knockaround sunglasses now. Yeah.
can we expect like more announcements, like maybe a presenting sponsor in the coming weeks, or is that where it's headed?
Yeah, that's all in the works. I'm already sort of underwater as far as workload comes. Just trying to focus on the creative, but we've got a great sales team. But yeah, I think so. I think, and I also think like one of the reasons why we wanted to do kind of a live show is there's a lot of real estate there that we can sell, to be honest
Sure.
with you. You know what I mean? Like we got a desk, we got a background. If you watch the McAfee show, he's got, a DoorDash water bottle, stuff like that. So yeah, I definitely think the more, and I also think, we'll add sponsors for sure, but we don't want it to feel like it's a commercial, so we're gonna try to weave it in editorially where it makes sense, so it's not just kind of reading ads.
Sure, definitely. If I could make a call, make it happen though, what would be the most on-brand presenting sponsor you'd want on board for the ride? Like, would it be an equipment company, like just broad strokes?
Wow, that's a really good question again. No, I would say like a technology company, like an Adobe or like a Zoom or something like that. Aligning with one manufacturer would definitely, I mean, we would be happy to do it, and it would work, but it would obviously come with some
Strings.
sort of editorial strings attached. So, ideally like a sponsor who just kind of lets us be us.
If you could pull a Freaky Friday with any player on the PGA Tour for a month, but the catch is they're doing your job while you're doing theirs, and you don't want to get fired when you get back, who are you switching with? And walk me through your rationale.
Rory,
Okay.
I think he's a highly compelling talker, and I think he's curious by nature. I think he likes talking to people, and he's really really good at forming connections quickly, which I think is a really important part of this job. When you get someone on Zoom, you have to make them feel comfortable. You have to make them feel like you care what they're saying, like you're listening. And I would just love to be able to hit driver the way that he does.
I was just going to say, is he going to be okay? Like, is he going to fall in the rankings while you're doing his?
Yeah, he will for sure. He'll miss a bunch of cuts.
As golf media continues to evolve, what's an emerging trend you believe will shape the industry in the next 5 years? Maybe it's already happening.
I don't know if it's 5. Yeah, 5 years. I guess. I mean, the media rights deal is up in 2029, I believe, for the PGA Tour. Um, I think that deal will look very different to how it looks now. We've seen over the last, I would say, 3 or 4 years, alternative media just come in and really, really dominate the space. On the podcast side, you've got Foreplay from Barstool, you've got No Laying Up. On the video side, you've got Good, you've got Grant Horvat. The reach that these alternative media have is just astounding. And yeah, I think it's going to continue moving that way. And I think, the tour store is sort of crawling into the space with like the Creator Council. We do the Creator Classic. I think it's going to be more of that stuff. And I think, I just think the media rights deal won't look the same as it does this time.
I noticed, like, I mean, like Apple has MLS and Netflix just got WWE. Is it possible that PGA Tour won't be with like a old-fashioned broadcast network?
I don't think so. No, I don't think that it would be exclusively on a streamer like that. But I don't know. Amazon's got a lot of money, and so does Apple. It's more a function of whether they want to pay for it. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I still think like you can't lose sight of the fact that golf's getting younger and golf's getting has more energy, but it's still golf, right? And the average viewer is still a lot older, and a lot of those people are very happy with their cable subscription. So I don't think they'll go that direction just yet, but I don't know.
Say I give you $1 billion, but the catch is you have to use the funds to start a golf business or golf-related business, and you can only keep a percentage of the profits. What are you going to do? Start the next Scotty Cameron, build a training aid empire, open a simulator bar? What are you doing with the money right now?
You brought the heat today.
You could buy Pro Shop.
With $1 billion, what would I do with $1 billion? Dollars. That's a great question. Um, I think what Tacoma is doing is really cool. I don't know if you're familiar. It's like a
Yeah, the
direct to
club
consumer.
brand. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's like a really interesting space.
So go
Yeah.
direct to consumer club manufacturer.
Yeah, yeah. I think yeah, I just I don't I've done some research into that company and I think I think it's a cool thing that they're doing.
Your Morgan Hoffman story back in the day was like one of the most engrossing golf stories I've ever read. You know, that had the storytelling, the pathos, the humor, had everything. Do you still have a Jones for long form writing and maybe a novel or screenplay could be in your future?
I don't have the Jones thing. I don't know. It's like I feel bad because in one capacity, I sort of feel like that's kind of like the highest form of journalism is like the long form stories like that. But I also remember that my favorite part about being writing always was when I finished.
Okay.
So I know. I mean, my world would have to slow down so much. Like my brain now moves so quickly because I'm so much in like the day to day that like the notion of sitting down and writing, I just like couldn't like tune out from the news cycle enough to do it. So, maybe in the future, like I never thought I would be doing this. I'm only 30 years old, so there's a lot of time left. Like maybe I'll get really tired of the day to day and return to it. But I'm not the most patient person by nature, and I think writing those stories takes a lot of patience. I'm actually like kind of astounded that I was able to do it.
Well, for example, how long did it take to write a story like that? That was weeks?
Probably more like days, but
Oh,
like
okay.
I remember yeah, I would say probably like well, then there's like revisions and stuff. I mean, but it definitely takes a couple days. You got to outline it. You gotta decide what quotes you want to use. But I knew I had a really good story there, so I was and that story kind of put me on the map a little bit. So I knew what was or not what was at stake, but I knew what was possible with the right execution. Yeah, I just remember pitching that story and they didn't even want it. They were like, "Oh, this is
Okay.
gonna be too sad." I was like, "Nah, I don't think so."
A lot of people outside the golf world know you from Full Swing. When you get recognized in your day to day, is it mainly, for that? Like it's not like someone knows you from like on the bag, or maybe it is. I don't know. Like when you
No,
get
I
is
think it's
golf Full Swing? Yeah. Okay.
definitely full swing. Yeah, just the reach of. I mean, there's obviously like when I go to a golf course, those people are like, I'm sure they watch stuff we do
Sure.
online. No, I mean, yeah, full swing definitely changed that. To a yeah, it happened pretty much overnight. The Netflix effect is very real.
Can you relate like a particular moment with a fan that was kind of surreal for you because it was one of the early ones, or maybe just
This
something?
happens all the time, man. Like all these guys who come up to me and they're so happy and they're like, "We love your stuff. We love your stuff." It's very surreal. I don't know if humbling. You hear guys say, "Oh, it's very humbling." It's almost like a little like embarrassing. Not embarrassing. You just feel like you want to keep delivering because these people are obviously watching, and yeah, it's very surreal. Very very surreal.
Sort of, you're kind of like the explainer in chief on the show, like the plot glue for the whole series. But it seems to come off naturally. I was wondering, are you nailing these quips on and your explanations on one take, or like is this taking longer in real life?
It's a mix. Sometimes they want you to say restate something like, "Oh, can you say that?" But like use their names.
Sure.
But no, I mean, I think a lot of times, I think what they like is that it comes off authentically, and so even if you're really good at delivering lines, if you're delivering lines, you can still tell, like the viewer can still tell that you're delivering lines. So we try to do it as informally as possible. I mean, they come to my all my interviews this year, except for me, I think one was shot in my living room. So it's very comfortable for me. I feel like I'm in a good spot, and at this point, I know most of the producers, the camera guys, so and there's no live audience, so it's a very relaxed setting.
You described that the show, it's not just a podcast. Well, like in the press release, it says podcast, but it's like there's a YouTube version too. So what do you describe the show as? Is it a podcast? Is it like what is it?
No, I describe it as sort of like a show. I mean, showcast is the word. It's not a real
Okay.
word. It's like a Colin Coward show. It's like a radio show that has a visual element. It's a good question. I probably need to come up with like a more neat moniker for it. It's an internet show, I guess. But
Showcast, I like that actually.
yeah,
Um,
showcast. But I try to do my best to. I mean, it's been one episode. I'm trying to do my best to serve the audio listener as well. So not just, showing a highlight, not saying anything, and sort of, walk them along as well.
I wonder, like, is there's still like a leaderboard for these kind of things? Do you aspire to like, okay, foreplay you mentioned, and obviously no laying up. Do you aspire this could be the number one of these kind of shows?
I think anytime at least for me, anytime you do something, you want to be the best at it. Um, those podcasts have been around a long time and they've built really, really loyal followings. But that's one of the reasons why we wanted this to be so different. Like, I didn't necessarily, you can't fake camaraderie. So those guys have been doing this for, the better part of a decade. Both of those groups, they have incredible chemistry. I pitched Joel Damon on doing a podcast with me. And once he said no, I was like, I don't think that there's any other podcast that would break through. So I don't really think of us that much as even really in the same category. Like we show highlights, we've got live interviews. The podcast feed is sort of a bonus for me. Like when I'm thinking about the show, I'm not really thinking about the podcast version. I still try to serve that reader, but we make the show very much as a visual show.
I'd love to get your take on prize money and player earnings in professional golf. Do you think that fans actually care when a tournament versus like, 15 million or 20 million? Or is that more of like a talking point between like people like in the media to say, oh, this tournament's $25 million?
Yeah, I don't think fans
Yeah.
care at all. If
Yeah.
anything, I think they like actively don't care. I mean, and no one's ever talked about how much money Patrick Mahomes makes. Like that's not, no one cares. And I think, we just had a meeting with Jay Monahan today, and that's what he was talking about. He's like, the money stuff, it's just fans don't care. They just tune it out. I think like I always go back to Nick Dunlap last year, one of the best stories of the year, winning as an amateur, first one since Phil Mickelson. He didn't win any money, and it wasn't about that. And it was still an incredible story. I mean, what's the event that elicits the most emotion out of fans? It's two. It's the Masters, which is not the biggest prize money of the year, and it's the Ryder Cup, where this year they might get paid a little bit, but it's not about the money. There's been so much talk about money in golf the last half dozen years, but the only people that's really benefited is the players themselves. They're richer than ever, but I don't think the fans are watching because there's 20 million on the line this week.
With prize money and sponsorship deals continuing to soar, though, could you see a financial landscape where, like over the next decade, somebody like a Blades Brown ends up having more career earnings than Tiger Woods?
Oh, you're looking at Scotty's already like third all time.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
Scotty will pass Tiger for sure. Yeah. As far as like off course, I don't know, but yeah, the career earnings used to be a really interesting list. It's not so interesting anymore because it's all just like guys in the last 5 years because what did Scotty make last year? 28 million or something. It's like a quarter of Tiger's earnings in one season.
Speaking of Scotty, nobody had Scotty spends time behind bars on their 2024 bingo card. When you look out to 2025, is there anything you see in your crystal ball? And it could be something more easy, like some guy's just going to emerge and win 3 tournaments.
I think this is the year for Rory. I've said that before, but I think he's going to get one this year. I think he's going to get a major championship this year, and it would be glorious if he did. But I feel it in my bones.
Is it going to be the one to complete the slam or just a random one?
I'm not gonna specify which one
Okay.
it is, but I will say that Rory gets one this year. He's got 4 chances.
Um, if a head of a major network, say NBC or CBS, calls you and said, "Dan, we want you to be our new main guy. Like the show is yours. You're the new front guy." Are you saying like, "Put me in, coach," or you're going to politely decline and say, "No, I'm comfortable doing what I'm doing now"?
That would be an interesting conversation with Chad. I'm not thinking that far in advance. I know. Listen, if that happened, it would be obviously really hard to not consider that very seriously. But it hasn't happened yet. So
how do you characterize the 2 years you spent at Barstool, and how do you think that shaped you?
it was an amazing opportunity for me. Got to make some really, really cool content that I'm super proud of. The audience that they exposed me to was so far above anything that I had ever experienced. Learned a ton about new media, about video production, about how to make things happen, about social media. I will always be grateful. I feel like that's where I kind of switched from being a writer to being whatever I am now. So I have nothing but gratitude and respect for those guys. And I still see them all the time and I still talk to them, and yeah, it's all good.
I know there was that there was a negative headline when you left, like from Dave Portnoy. He said that you're boring. Did that bother you at the time, or did you shrug it off like this show business? He's just saying something.
I mean, it's never nice to read something
Yeah.
negative about yourself, but I expected it.
But you have no hard feelings toward him or anything, right? Or,
No, no,
yeah,
I
yeah.
listen. I again, tremendous respect for the ecosystem that he's built. Had a great 2 years there, and I just I root for that. I wish them nothing but continued success.
It's the only question is for Dan on Golf. How are you going to measure the success of the show? Like, I obviously you have internal numbers. Is that what it is? It's like we want to reach. I don't know what the magic number is, but is that it? Like we want to reach a certain number
Yeah, I think it's a combination of things. I think it's I want to feel like creatively it is where I want. We want the viewership numbers to be good. You want the sponsorship dollars to roll in. It's really a combination of all three things. It's not like we have one metric that we're aiming for.
That was my last question. Is there anything I didn't ask you about the show that I should have though?
No, I think you did a great job. I think you covered it all.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Dan. Really appreciate it.
Great. Thanks, guys. See you soon,
All right.
man.
Thanks. Bye.